They've been trying to cancel me forever. Joe Rogan should be a hero. Instead, he's being turned into a pariah, framed as an existential threat to our democracy and health. Rogan's interviews are so dangerous, he's racist. I've watched Rogan's interviews. I've seen a half dozen other Rogan interviews. His interviews don't strike me as particularly dangerous. I've heard nothing racist from Rogan. He's a comedian who likes to use drugs. It wouldn't surprise me if he's cracked jokes that could be deemed bigoted. In pursuit of laughs, comedians push the envelope. From Dave Chappelle to Red Fox to Andrew Dice Clay to Paul Mooney, comedians use racial stereotypes to make audiences laugh. Now we're using accusations of racism to silence people who ask the wrong questions or interview the wrong people. Big Pharma and Big Tech are determined to smear Joe Rogan with the same brush that smeared Alex Jones and Donald Trump. Most people believe Jones and Trump deserve to be smeared and deplatformed. But where does the censorship stop? Joe Rogan is a bigot? This is the society that we've created. This is the new, if someone says something that corporate media, Big Pharma, Big Tech doesn't want heard, we're going to smear them as racist. You put that label on them, and now you can ignore anything else that they say. If someone was to jump out and say, hey, look, there's a bus that's gonna hit you if you cross that street, you gotta ignore it. He's racist. He used the N-word. Go ahead and step out on that street and get hit by that bus because that person's racist. Anything they say is untrue because they've said something non-PC in their past. I'm so over this, but this is where we're at in society. And you know, I'll be canceled in order to survive in corporate media, you gotta play that game and make sure you say all the right things. What should we think of Joe Rogan? Is he an existential threat, a threat to the existence of this society?
Look, shout out to Joe Rogan, man. You know, he's right in the crosshairs of the enemy. And that's exactly where we should all strive to be in this day and age. We should all be so lucky, to be honest. Look, Joe Rogan's an American institution at this point, and deservedly so. He has stood in the breach when the establishment has tried to constrain power and censor the truth. We all owe him a huge thank you for that, right? And that's probably the understatement of the century. What Joe Rogan has done for society is really unquantifiable, in my opinion. I don't think that Joe Rogan is a racist by any means. I don't think that Joe Rogan is a malicious guy. In fact, I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan's podcast. And I like Joe. I like Joe a lot. This isn't about Joe Rogan being racist. This isn't about the establishment trying to protect Black people from racist voices. This is about Joe Rogan having bucked the establishment, okay, having gone against the establishment, and on many occasions caught them with their pants down. First, it was with Alex Jones. Then more recently with this entire ivermectin scandal that they pulled, that he won, right? So Joe Rogan has taken the establishment to the mat, and he's winning, you know, more times than not. And honestly, this is what we're going to continue to see now. We're going to continue to see an establishment try and go back in people's past, find a smoking gun of racism, claim that they're doing it on behalf of Black people, when really they just want to hang it over somebody like Joe Rogan and Spotify's head, to get them to bow at the altar of intersectionality in the church of LGBTQ. I actually find that offensive. Racism is like, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. Joe Biden.
And I agree with you. I guess I should say I'm a little concerned that Joe Rogan and Spotify are going to fall. I sit and think of all the things that we are allowed to say in this society, but we have popular music that spews far more negative information, far more promotion of things that are harmful, and no one cares. No one. Dr. Dre and Eminem, their music is far more pervasive and popular, and says more dangerous stuff than anything heard in a Joe Rogan podcast.
Joe Rogan held the breach during a pivotal moment in this country's history and society's history. If anything you can say about Joe, the one critique of Joe is that he's pretty down the middle, right? He's almost maybe a little too down the middle for the crisis that we're in, right? He's obviously seeing the corruption for himself now. Traditionally, he has kind of been down the middle and always done his best to conform in a way to YouTube or Google or whoever the powers that be are to be able to keep his platform. Now, he's put up more of a fight than a lot of mainstream people, but he's conformed a bit. He's not radical. And it's not by accident that they try and set the bar of radical at somebody who's more down the middle. And all of it is this attempt to basically create, a moral selectiveness that they get to determine, right? And you can talk about the rap music and those things are good examples for sure. But prime example is, let's look at the LGBTQ push down the throat. The HIV rate of homosexual Black men in this country is 50%. Okay, you got a better chance of contracting HIV as a Black homosexual male than you do of dying of COVID. So how is it okay for the Grammys to openly promote homosexuality amongst young Black males like Lil Nas X? Is that not a public health crisis? Of course it's not, because we're all at the altar of intersectionality in the church of LGBTQ. Okay, so they get to say what's dangerous and what's not. And it's a farce, it's a scam.
I think it's only a matter of time before Bill Maher is under a similar attack as Joe Rogan.